investment solution. Money Radio 1510 at 105.3 FM.
The views expressed on the following program do not necessarily reflect the views of Money Radio staff, management, or advertisers, and do not represent an offer to buy or sell any securities. Some interviews heard on this program may be sponsored by the participants. It's time for Health Futures with Cypress HomeCare Solutions, Bob Roth. This is Arizona's only show dedicated to providing you with expert advice on how to live a longer, healthier, and happier life. To learn more, call 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Bob Roth.
Good afternoon. It's Friday, and you are listening to Health Futures. It is a show that we have been bringing to you now for nearly 4.5 years, and it is a show about how our older adult population can live a healthier, happier life. And it's hard to believe we are now in our last show for the month of August, because next Friday will be September 1. Where is the time going? Man, oh man. So our show is about how that older adult population can live a healthier, happier life. And how do we do it? We bring extraordinary guests. And I've got today a return guest who is, one, he's my doctor. Two, he's a friend. And he brings incredible content to our listening audience. So without further ado, I want to introduce Dr. David Bailie. David, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me again.
It's good to have you again on the show. And, you know, we talk about a lot of different things. And for our listening audience that doesn't know or hasn't heard David here on the show, David has an incredible company called ASICS. And he is an orthopedic surgeon, and he specializes in shoulders, knees. Did my elbow. Anything else you do?
I pretty much focus on shoulders and knees at this time.
Shoulders and knees. And, you know, I share with my listening audience about my aging challenges. And back in January, David, I was in to see you with my knee. And here I am at the end of August, and I'm able to get out there on the tennis court with Susie. I'm able to walk with no pain. So kudos to you. Hats off. An incredible job.
That's what always makes it worth it, is when people do well.
You know, it's interesting. We talk about healthcare, and I don't want to really go down that rat hole about, you know, the politics behind it. But I don't think I ever shared with you the bill that I got from the hospital. Mind you, the bill I got from you was fine, and you're already paid for it. But you know, when I went to the hospital, and I want to share with our listening audience with this. I mean, I was taken back there about 1 o'clock. I was in the prep room till about 1:30. You came out to visit me. The anesthesiologist came out to visit me. By the time the procedure got done, I think he said it was like 11, 12 minutes. It wasn't really that long for you to do it, which was really cool. And sharing with our listening audience, I mean, I had orthoscopic knee surgery, and, you know, with two little holes, one on the right side, one on the left side. And I learned this because I asked these questions. You know, one was pumping water into me. The other one, he's nipping and cutting and tucking and sewing and whatever you were doing to fix me up. And Susie had me in the car by 3 o'clock, and I got my EOB, and thank God I had health insurance. You have any idea how much they charged me at that urology center or surgery center?
No, I'm not privy to their bills. However, the rules behind all that are ridiculous. And so I have a lot of actually uninsured patients, people who just say, I'm not going to pay these high deductibles, whatever. And I can negotiate on their behalf much better rates for truly cash patients. But once you have insurance, there are certain laws that come into play. You can't do that.
So even with surgery centers, you can do that?
You can do it with surgical centers. You can't really do it with the hospital systems, right, because they don't budge on anything for anybody. So when I have people travel in from out of town, they may not have insurance or their insurance won't cover anything. It's basically a cash pay patient. So we take them to the surgical centers where we can negotiate fair prices for them, and they are much better. But if you have insurance and a facility is contracted with your insurance, there's nothing anybody can do.
Well, it's interesting. So procedure, About 11, 12 minutes. I mean,
Yeah,
give or take a
sounds-
minute or two. I mean, I got the bill. Do you want to take a stab at it? Take a guess?
From the facility.
From the facility.
I have no idea.
23,000.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
23,000. That's just incredible. I mean,
And we didn't.
And I had insurance.
And we didn't use any implants or anything like that. And the cash price for that would be somewhere around $2,500 or $3,000.
Wow. You know what? Like I said, we can go down that rat hole and talk about healthcare.
It's amazing. It's so ridiculous.
It is, and you know, fortunately, I had health insurance. I still had to pay a big deductible when I got there. I wrote a check, and I can't remember what that was, but it was probably about $500. And
listen, yeah, I mean, the insurance industry right now is such a mess. Our family insurance costs somewhere around $18,000 a year with a $13,000 deductible. I mean, you never even use your insurance unless you get hit by a truck.
Right. No doubt. But I will tell you, thank you for the work you did on my knee. And, you know, you always wonder if you're going to get scars. I don't have scars. You know, is it 100%? You know what? It's maybe not quite 100%, but it's pretty darn close. And I'm not getting the swelling that I was getting behind the knee. And
well, if you looked inside your knee, you would know it would not be 100%.
Yeah, I know you told me that. And you also told me that I probably might be coming back at a later date.
Oh, yeah.
But that's the part about getting older. And speaking about getting older, I want to talk to you about some of the innovations that are out there. And, you know, for our listening audience, I talk about aging, and they're really, as I like to call it, it's a three-legged stool. And there are three things that we really need to rely on to be able to successfully age. And one and foremost, and David, you understand this, we need more people in the healthcare field. We need more people in the caregiving role. We need more doctors. We need more nurses. We need more physical therapists, speech therapists.
I'm gonna, if you don't mind me interrupting for
Sure.
1 second, a friend of mine from Wales just posted a graph that I had reposted about the cost of healthcare in the United States rising exponentially over the last decade, and it's almost a vertical slope. It's that fast. The number of new physicians and medical providers is flat. The reason the cost has gone up, it almost parallels that slope of that line, are the number of administrators.
Wow.
For both facilities and insurance companies and everything else. So they got to get paid, and so the insurance companies have jacked up all of our rates. The facilities have jacked up all the rates, but the number of administrators parallels the increase in cost of healthcare, whereas the number of physicians is flat.
And that lies the problem. I mean, you've got too much fat there. I mean, they're not actually doing the work. And I'm referring to people that you're talking about, and you're talking about clinicians. You're talking about caregivers. You're talking
Correct.
And we look at geriatricians, and Dr. Atul Gawande said it so well in his book, Be Immortal. There are more geriatricians that are retiring than they're coming into the field, and we've got 10,000 people a day turning 65, 3.5 million people a year. So we need more people to get into the healthcare spectrum. The other part is policy. So that's the second leg. It's government policy, getting the government to realize that they need to help by coming up with assistance for families, family caregivers, giving them tax breaks. I've shared that with us on the show. And then that last leg is innovation and technology. And innovation and technology is going to help us successfully age. And why have you here on the show? I want to talk to you about some of the innovations and technologies, because we hear so much that's out there. And, you know, so much is out there is somewhat hocus pocus, and I never know if some of the stuff is true. And I know people are out there exploring these things, doing clinical trials in these areas. And I'm specifically talking about stuff like stem cell, PRP, that's protein...
Platelet-rich plasma.
Platelet-rich plasma. And there's some other things, too. We're coming up on a break, but what are some of the other things that are...
So PRP is being used very commonly, what we call amniogenic cell therapy, which is basically one side of a human placenta, the amnion side, that has what we call immunoprivileged cells and growth factors and all these things. That's become a hot thing, but there's a lot of research going on and a lot of quacky use of some good technology. And I think a lot of people are spending big money out of their pocket to try to cure things that are not curable, and they're not being told the truth. When the data's out there, it's being studied, and there are some uses and some things you just shouldn't use it for.
Needling too, right? Isn't that something that's being done?
Dry needling?
Dry needling.
Yeah, we can get in. That's a therapy treatment that actually is very good for certain things.
Well, it's hard to believe. We're down one segment, but I want to get into this whole new innovation area where this is stuff that has not been approved by FDA. It's all being tried. A lot of people that are listening here today are trying these types of things. And I really would love for you to help us give some validity to it or debunk it. So,
absolutely. I can give you all the current research.
Perfect. Well, you're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You, and I've got Dr. David Bailie in the house. He's with ASICS. And if you will, please come back. We're going to learn a lot more about innovations in technology and healthcare.
I'm Gary Kolb. I'm host of the nationally syndicated radio show Investor's Edge. We're not just handsome radio people. We manage investors' money for a living, specializing in fee-based discretionary money management. No big commissions, just a fee on the assets that's managed. We also provide a full range of personalized services, including retirement planning, insurance, fixed income, and educational needs, all to assist you in achieving your financial goals. Understanding not all individuals have the same needs, we will carefully evaluate your personal goals to determine a proper investment strategy. If your current approach to investing is not getting you where you would like to be, call us to make an appointment for a complimentary portfolio review. The number to call, 888-422-5559. That's 888-422-5559. That's 888-422-5559. 5559.
Get total freedom in your life safely and quickly. Build wealth and passive income so you never worry about working till you drop, losing your job, or retiring in poverty. Hi, I'm Steve Davis, an investor in thousands of units over the years. Now it's your turn. Del Walmsley has been my mentor for nearly 25 years, and he's taught over 100,000 people just like you the principles of financial freedom through live one-on-one mentoring at Lifestyles Unlimited and his national radio show. I'm excited to tell you about the real estate workshop that changed my life. The workshop gets you on the inside of what we do and what we believe and unlocks the 5 ways we make money in real estate. Just like your personal trainer, Lifestyles Unlimited will motivate, encourage, and teach you so you can get in the best financial shape of your life. Call 866-971-8970 or go to luiphoenix.com. That's luiphoenix.com to register for the workshop that will change your life and let you stop worrying about working till you drop, losing your job, or retiring in poverty.
To relieve muscle cramps in your legs and feet, reach for TheraWorks Relief. This fast-acting foam can even prevent muscle cramps. Get TheraWorks Relief today at TheraWorksRelief.com.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures. I'm your host, Bob Roth, and if you're just tuning in, yes, we're being brought in by Led Zeppelin. Thank you, James. Appreciate it. Awesome. What a great way to start a Friday. I've got Dr. David Bailie from ASICS here in the studio. He's been on my show before. He is my doctor, a good friend, and we were talking about a number of different things related to healthcare, and we were talking about innovations in technology. But before we jump into it, you just got back into town, didn't you, David?
I did. We were taking our youngest daughter to CU Boulder.
CU. What's CU?
It's interesting. It's University of Colorado, but they call it CU for some reason.
And is she a freshman over there?
She's a freshman.
Awesome.
On one of the most spectacular campuses on the planet.
It was like...
I almost moved there and tried to move into a dorm.
Really?
It's gorgeous.
Was the weather awesome?
It was awesome, yeah. It's a beautiful place.
Especially today's supposed to be like 109, so I'm sure it was really awesome.
It feels hot there because of the altitude, obviously.
Right.
But it's just a beautiful place.
Well, I've known you for a number of years, and I remember Aubrey when she was just a baby when I first met
Yeah.
her, so it's hard to believe. And you've got one that graduated.
Yeah, we got Braden, who's in Cincinnati working for Procter & Gamble in management and loving that.
He didn't want to be a doctor like you, did he?
I told him not a good idea. A little unpredictable right now.
Well, a little bit unpredictable, and plus, it was a lot of work that you put in. I mean, you know,
Yeah, you don't get your first job till you're 32 years old in my specialty.
And one of the things we talked about the last show, we talked about the whole 10,000 hour thing.
Yeah.
And
That's right.
you know, Jim Collins talked about, you know, in order to be an expert, and today surgeons and doctors don't really get that 10,000 hours.
No, in fact, they did a survey of orthopedic surgical residents, and 80% don't feel comfortable practicing by the time they finish their residency because the government mandated hour restrictions during their training to 80 hours a week. Well, we worked 120, 130 hours a week.
Wow.
But you need that volume and up all night, 2 or 3 days. You need all this experience to be proficient, and so 80% of the surgeons coming out of their training don't feel comfortable doing what they're supposed to be doing.
So you drank a lot of coffee.
A lot of coffee.
Mountain Dew?
No, pretty much the first thing you do when you get on a hospital floor is make sure the pot of coffee is full. All day.
I believe it.
You walk around with, like we walk around with water in Arizona, you walk around with coffee.
I believe it. I believe it. So Braden doesn't have to drink a lot of coffee. So.
No, Braden's got a nice situation, so he's enjoying it.
Well, very good. Very good. Well, it's good to catch up with you and your kids and what they're doing. You know, we left off talking about technology, and we're talking about how we can, you know, put people back together again. And you've done a great job of putting me back together, so thank you. Put my elbow back together when I tore my tricep tendon.
You got to quit falling apart, Humpty Dumpty.
Well, you know, you told me that I got to dial it down. You know,
it's hard. I don't. I
mean, I still go full tilt. I mean,
it's okay. That's the whole idea.
Yeah, but you know, if I remember correctly, you said that your tendons and your ligaments aren't as pliable when you're 50 than they are when you're 20. They become a little more rigid, a little more.
Yeah, I mean, most of the ruptures, Achilles ruptures, patellar tendon ruptures, quadriceps tendon ruptures around the knee, those all occur, you know, in 40s, 50s.
Right.
For a reason.
But there's nothing we can do to really prevent them. I mean, preventative stuff is,
you can minimize it, but you're not going to prevent all of them no matter what. You could be in great shape, great flexibility. You're still going to have those problems.
Yeah, I get that. So let's talk about putting us back together again because, you know, the knife is something that is a tool that is used, but there are some of these innovations that are coming out that we talked about at the end of the first break that, you know, haven't yet been FDA approved, but, you know, a lot of people are spending a lot of money on these new innovations, these new techniques, if you would.
Well, they are FDA approved for certain things.
Okay.
But not what they're being used for.
Well, give us an example.
So we can talk about, I mean, there's several of them. So I would probably start with platelet-rich plasma, since that's more frequent now. So platelet-rich plasma is basically a component of your blood that houses platelets. And platelets are the things that cause your blood to clot, but they also are the first soldiers that end up at an injury. So you have a cut or break your leg or anything like that, the first thing that happens is the platelets run over there. They have all the bag of information that tells the body which cells need to come next and what order things have to happen. And so these are growth factors, and they release these little chemicals, but those chemicals tell the other cells when it's time for them to show up and do their job. So it's a real complex process. So now the technology is that by taking some blood, spinning it at a certain rate, a certain speed, you can separate these things and inject them into certain areas of the body and potentially improve healing or stimulate healing. However, it's interesting. It doesn't work for a lot of things it's being used for. Part of this has been trial and error. It is an FDA-approved process for the use with bone graft to help fracture healing, but that's it.
Okay.
The second thing is a lot of clinicians are in pain clinics and things like that are using home spun PRP. In other words, they just take blood, spin it in a centrifuge, and take the plasma, and that's not how it works. There are actually 6 different companies that make a commercial kit because there's tons of variables that determine whether you're going to really get PRP that's going to be working for you or not. So how long you spin it, the speed you spin it, activating factors that stimulate the platelets to release the granules of this material. There's all sorts of things that have to be done to make it useful. And so one of the unfortunate things is people are doing PRP, but not all PRP is created equally. So people are wasting a lot of cash because it's a cash business, and people are charging a lot of money to have patients do this, telling them this is great stuff, and people hear about it, so they think, okay, well, let's try it. Good news is it probably doesn't do any harm in certain circumstances, but if you use the wrong kind of PRP in the wrong situation, you can actually it can be detrimental to the tissue.
So it's interesting. I hear what you're saying. So the process in creating the PRP is what makes it work. And you're saying that some people aren't spinning it properly. They don't have the right technique, if you would.
They don't use the commercial kits that have been proven. So the commercial kits have had to they can tell you the quantity of platelets, the quality of the platelets, the quality of what you're injecting. So it's a very significant scientific process, and some of the places are doing it. They're just making it themselves from your blood, of course, but they're still just making it by just centrifuging and getting the plasma, which you can do by centrifuging blood,
right,
and injecting it. But that's not the same, and they're charging a lot of money for it. And I see probably 10 patients a week who have paid thousands of dollars having so-called stem cells or PRP. And stem cells is something we'll talk about probably after the break. It's a little more involved, but they don't, in short, they don't exist in the United States except under FDA studies. So anybody who says they've had stem cell treatment has been lied to, blatantly lied to.
Well, it's interesting. I want to go back to talking about platelet-rich plasma. I have a friend of mine, David, that went and had injections done in his head. Now,
for hair growth.
For hair growth.
Yes.
And I'm going to tell you, I hadn't seen him in about 90 days. He's growing hair.
No, it works.
Big time.
It works for that, yeah.
It works for that. Wow. I mean,
it works for a lot of things, actually. It's a very good technology.
But you think about...
I use it quite a bit.
You think about those people that, have those hair follicles put in. I mean, how painful that looks. But just to get injections in your scalp and grow hair is phenomenal. I never knew that.
Yeah, it's the plastic surgeons have been using it for a while for certain things. I think there's some uses in ophthalmology and things like that. But PRP has a lot of potential, but it's currently under study. How much do you give? How frequently do you have to give it? What kind of PRP do you need? There are PRPs that have white blood cells in it. That's called leukocyte-rich PRP. There's PRP that has no white blood cells. That's called leukocyte-poor PRP. They both have their place in certain conditions. So it's really a matter of,
you talk about PRP. I had the pleasure of having the doctors from Scottsdale Center of Women's Health on, and they're using PRP treatments for women's health and for men's health, and I found that fascinating too. I mean,
people are using it like crazy.
Yeah, but like you said, you need to do your homework.
It's hard for a lay person to do their homework because even many physicians find it difficult to keep up with the literature. It's in orthopedics, it's evolving every week. I probably see 2 or 3 new papers globally on PRP every week, and we've used it for certain things. Like it used to be thought for Achilles tendonitis it works. Well, people used it for several years, and now studies show it doesn't have any effect, and actually can be detrimental for the Achilles, but that doesn't correlate with another tendon in the body where it may be beneficial.
And, I always wonder, even if it isn't, what about the placebo?
50% of people get better if you give them a salt pill.
We got to get going. Halftime here at Health Futures. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
As we reach the bottom of the hour, we pause for a look at the world's news. Then we're back with Money Talk. We're Money Radio 1510 AM and 105.3 FM.
Harvey is now a Category 3 hurricane as it bears down on Texas with the potential for up to 3 feet of rain and catastrophic flooding. Texas Governor Greg Abbott says some residents are being asked to leave.
Texans who are in areas that have been declared as evacuation areas. It could be your local official who has declared an emergency evacuation. You need to heed that call if at all possible.
Congress will tackle tax reform when lawmakers return from their late summer break. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin.
The president's number one objective is now to get tax reform done. He's going to go on the road. We're starting with his first trip next week. And the president is 100% supportive of us passing legislation this year.
On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average gaining 69 points, the S&P 500 up 9, the Nasdaq up 16. I'm Ann Cates.
This is Charles Osgood. For many businesses, hiring is tough. That makes it critical to choose the right place to post your jobs. You need qualified candidates fast and on budget. And you don't want to sign a long-term contract or pay upfront fees. That's why you need Indeed.com, the world's #1 job site. Independent research shows Indeed delivers 6 times more hires than any other job site. You can post a job in minutes and even set up screener questions to help you zero in on qualified candidates. You can review applicants, take notes, and schedule interviews, all from an online dashboard that's easy to use. For a limited time, Indeed is offering new users a $50 credit to make their first job listing a sponsored job with premium visibility so more candidates will see it. Find out why over 3 million businesses use Indeed for hiring. To redeem this offer, go to Indeed.com/credit. That's Indeed.com/credit. Terms, conditions, and quality standards apply.
If you can get a signal on your smartphone, then you can listen live to Money Radio. Download our app for free and never miss a moment of the great advice.
Hi, I'm Gary Kolb. I'm host of the nationally syndicated radio show Investor's Edge. We're not just handsome radio people. We manage investors' money for a living, specializing in fee-based discretionary money management. No big commissions, just a fee on the assets that's managed. We also provide a full range of personalized services, including retirement planning, insurance, fixed income, and educational needs, all to assist you in achieving your financial goals. Understanding not all individuals have the same needs, we will carefully evaluate your personal goals to determine a proper investment strategy. If your current approach to investing is not getting you where you would like to be, call us to make an appointment for a complimentary portfolio review. The number to call, 888-422-5559. That's 888-422-5559. That's 888-422-5559.
Are you interested in the interest you're paying on your mortgage? I assure you your lender is interested in your interest, and that may not be in your best interest. Hi, Joe Capitano here, Senior Vice President with Homeowners Financial Group. You know, every lender charges interest to lend you money. But did you know you pay more interest in the first 1/3 of the scheduled time than the last 2/3? That's why your loan balance goes down so slowly during that time. You're paying more interest than principal. What if you paid principal first, then a small amount of interest based only on the remaining balance? You could dramatically pay off your home much sooner, pretend to save tens of thousands of dollars in interest. This program does exist, and it's so simple. Just call me, Joe Capitano, 480-305-8545, 480-305-8545, or just go to joeloans.com and find me. Back number 090-6222, NMLS 9826, Equal Housing Lender.
Be sure to listen to Joe every other Friday on Mastering Money, right here on Money Radio.
To relieve muscle cramps in your legs and feet, reach for TheraWorks Relief. This fast-acting foam can even prevent muscle cramps. Get TheraWorks Relief today at TheraWorksRelief.com.
I'm Bruce Vail with Your Money Now. Airlines are waiving change fees and warning of possible flight disruptions as Hurricane Harvey takes aim at the Gulf Coast of Texas. Forecasters are warning of heavy flooding with problems possibly lasting into next week. A number of airlines, including the nation's 4 biggest, have enacted flexible rebooking policies for flyers ticketed to fly to and from that region. The policies vary by airline, so if you do have travel plans, check with your specific airline for exact details. Oil prices rose nearly 1% today as the petroleum industry braces for Hurricane Harvey. Production along the coast is shutting down, and closures could last for some time if the storm causes extensive damage. Traders said U.S. imports could be affected due to interrupted shipping. Crude futures gained 44 cents today, settling at $47.87 a barrel. Stocks are higher, with the Dow Industrials up 79 points. The Nasdaq is ahead 6. That's Your Money Now.
In business, risks and rewards come with every decision. like moving to the cloud with Office 365. While its benefits include anywhere access and lower costs, cyber threats and user errors can quickly wipe out data and the money you save. Barracuda Essentials for Office 365 provide an added layer of security and functionality for threat protection, email migration, data recovery, and quality of service. Move securely to Office 365. Visit barracuda.com/essentials to learn more.
Blue Star medicated ointment works fast to relieve the pain and itch of almost any skin irritation.
It's amazing. It's like as soon as you put it on, you can feel it working. We've had Blue Star in the family for years. It works on everything.
I love the cooling sensation on my athlete's foot.
What a relief for my eczema.
Nothing worked on my dry, cracked skin until I tried Blue Star.
Blue Star is great for scalp itch.
Look for the white box with the Blue Star in the first aid section. Feel Blue Star work fast, or your money back.
I love doing it because I saw people enjoying my insanity.
That's right.
I made a living doing that. While when I don't make a living, I was in the elevator today at the hotel, and it was very quiet. Everyone's watching numbers, and we're riding up, and I was just obsessed. I had to go, "Light it!" 9 people. A lady grabbed the man she didn't even know, and it's wonderful to do that.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress HomeCare Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you. And we're up on our third segment. And thank you, James, for that little clip of Jerry Lewis. A lot of people don't know his real name is Jerome Levitch, and he was 91 years old and an amazing comedian, and really brought to light the need for raising money for muscular dystrophy, and he will be sorely missed. And it's a shame that we have to say so long, but hopefully his legacy will continue. And thank you, James, for helping us pay tribute to a great comedian and a great guy. So if you're just tuning in, I got Dr. David Bailie from ASICS here in the studio. And he is an orthopedic surgeon, and he runs an incredible practice. And I am indeed like Humpty Dumpty. He's put me back together again, and not only me, but many, many others. And he does great work. Specializes in knees and shoulders. He did do some work on my elbow, did a great job. That was a tricep tendon tear. But if you want to reach him and talk to him about knees, shoulders, or anything orthopedic related, some of the stuff we're talking about, innovation and new technologies in orthopedics, you can reach him at 480-264-6995. Or go to ASICS.com. That's AZISKS.com. And it is an acronym. What's that stand for?
The Arizona Institute for Sports, Knees, and Shoulders.
Makes sense to me. So we were talking about at the break, just before halftime, we were talking about some of these new techniques that were FDA approved for other purposes, and people are trying them in other means and other ways to try to get relief and help them with their challenges they're dealing with. And it's interesting because as we ended, I talked about maybe the placebo effect. Even though it didn't work, do you think people got results because they felt like this was going to help? And the mind is a very powerful thing. So, I was asking you about that. But the other thing that you talked about before the break is you talked about, and I want to talk about in this segment, is stem cells. And you said that if people are getting what they perceive is stem cell treatment here in our country, it's a myth, and there's no way because
Correct.
It's not approved here.
Yeah, so stem cells are real complicated, but real briefly, embryonic stem cells, not available in the United States. Those are true stem cells. Those are cells that can become anything in the body if told what to become. You have to tell the cell what to become. Because of moral and ethical issues in the United States, that is not available. So you're left with what we call adult mesenchymal stem cells, which are not really stem cells. They're what we call pluripotential cells. They can become almost anything in the body, but they're mesenchymal, which is a kind of tissue that can become bone, muscle, tendon, ligament. They cannot become brain or
Where did they get
neurons.
them?
So you can get them. Actually, the body has them all over the place. The best source is fat. That's the best source of what we call MSCs, mesenchymal stem cells. Second is bone marrow, and those are the two most common sources. The thing about it is, to use stem cells, the FDA and the U.S. rules are that you cannot manipulate a cell. And manipulation from any standpoint, mechanically, chemically, and to get mesenchymal stem cells to be useful, you have to manipulate them. You have to harvest the cell. You have to separate those cells from the other junk in the stuff, the cells that are not going to help you,
especially in the fat.
Right, fat, or even the bone marrow. There's
Right.
tons of stuff in the bone marrow, right? So you have to separate it. Then you have to manipulate the cell to tell it what you want it to become, and there's ways of doing that both mechanically as well as chemically, by marking it basically with what we call surface antigens, little markers. Some ways to turn it into cartilage, other ways turn it into bone, other ways turn it into muscle. Then you have to multiply those cells in the lab to get enough cells to do anything. Then you have to put them where you want them at the right time. If you put them in the wrong place at the wrong time, the variables are so great, basically they just sit there. The body has to be ready to receive those cells at the right time, otherwise they don't do anything. So the part that's illegal in the United States is manipulation of a cell. Well, that's everything with stem cells. So stem cells are great. You can do them in the Caribbean. You can do them in Europe. You can do them in Latin America. The problem is those are not real controlled environments. So there have been a lot of reports of death, tumors growing, things you don't want, all sorts of bad things happening in those countries because they don't have the severe regulations that we have. So it's kind of a catch-22. On one hand, you have this real liberal attitude, inject them for everything at any time, and you get dangerous results. In the United States, we can't use them. And so they are being used under FDA clinical trials only, but those are clinical trials. There's a big process. I've been involved in clinical trials and helped start one for a shoulder replacement. It's a very complicated process. The consent to a patient is 30 pages, 40 pages. It's a big deal, but they're using them for regenerating nerves and cardiomyopathies, problems with the heart and things like that. So they are being done, but only under FDA clinical trials. They'll be done in orthopedics to try to heal things, but again, only under FDA studies. So they are not available. And I just gave a lecture on this, and I think there were over 600 clinics in the United States advertising stem cells. There's no rules on how you want to advertise. The FDA doesn't control labeling or advertising. So people can market all they want, but they're not giving patients what they say they're giving them. And like I said before, it's a cash business, and people go in there with an expectation that they're getting something useful, and they're not.
And the only way you could be getting it is if you are in a clinical trial and you sign this 30-page document giving them authorization and consent to do it.
Correct. And you would also be blinded to that, so you may be getting the stem cells or not getting the stem cells, because these trials inject placebo. When you're in part of a trial, you can get either the real stuff or not real stuff.
Well, it's so hard to understand, and maybe it's because the religious movement about right to life and the embryonic stem cells, because at the end of the day, you can say what you want about healthcare, but here in the USA we have the best healthcare in the world. People come here from all over to have shoulder surgeries, knee surgeries, heart surgeries.
Yeah, I just had a guy fly from Rome to have shoulder surgery. The thing is, the costs are exponential because we have a for-profit insurance industry. Right. And so the money that goes into the healthcare system gets siphoned off to pay shareholders. And in their defense, that's their responsibility, is to give shareholder value. You could solve a lot of healthcare problems by just not allowing insurance companies to be for-profit, just making mutual companies.
We've talked about it.
Yeah, we've talked about that. And that would solve a lot of the problem. But nonetheless, all this new technology that's available is great. It's the new frontier biologics, but the accessibility of the true stuff is very, very, very limited. And I think it's all about educating patients. So when patients come to me, every week I get this. So I might try stem cells. I give them the literature. I tell them all the updated research and say, well, this is what PRP does. This is what it's used for. This is how we make it in my office. This is what stem cell therapy really is today. I think stem cells are the future, but we have to have it standardized and regulated and be allowed to use it in the right way.
Well, I know we're ending our segment here, and I want our listening audience to hear what Dr. Bailie was just saying. David was saying that if you are out there and you are seeing marketing for stem cells, buyer beware, because the FDA does not allow that type of treatment to be happening here in our country unless you are part of a clinical trial. And they're very few and far between. So buyer beware. You hear about stem cells, you need to probe and ask a lot of questions because more than likely you're not getting stem cells.
You can go to FDA.gov and look up clinical trials. They'll tell you what clinical trials are ongoing in the United States.
That's a great bit of information. You're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. I've got Dr. David Bailie in the house. He is with ASICS. And if you want to reach ASICS, you can reach them at azisks.com or call them at 480-264-6995. And you're hearing from a satisfied patient, so they do great work over there. We're coming right back for our fourth segment. Stay tuned.
Arizona investment property experts are now your Mexico investment property experts. Join investment property experts this Wednesday for an informative Investing in Mexico real estate workshop. Learn about investing in Puerto Peñasco, Mexico, and how you can earn a net 15% annual return. IPX's crown jewel in Mexico is the Esmeralda Resort, located on Sandy Beach in Puerto Peñasco, Mexico. Puerto Peñasco is the popular beach getaway known as Rocky Point. Only 3.5 hours away from Phoenix, Arizona, this is the perfect investment and vacation opportunity for you. As an investor, you will not only earn 15%, but you will have access to numerous investment projects. Currently, we are offering Esmeralda investors discounted lots, houses, and condos that can be purchased and flipped. And best of all, everything is 100% turnkey. With the home port commencing construction this year and its planned completion in 2019, this project will be a big boost to the economy and investment real estate in Rocky Point.
Learn more by attending this informative workshop. Call 602-254-6244 or visit easyinvestmentpropertyexperts.com.
Hi, I'm Johnny Dean.
And I'm Rick, the Professor Plum.
Every day on Bucket Strategy Investing, we're talking about financial planning, investment decisions, and retirement strategies.
We focus on wealth education and the strategy designed for the needs you have today
and the goals you have for the future. Tune in to Bucket Strategy Investing.
And call in with questions.
Retirement strategies, taxes, Social Security, and more. That's what we're talking about on Bucket Strategy Investing.
Marvel Universe Live, Age of Heroes, Guardians of the Galaxy, Spider-Man, Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, Black Widow, Hulk, and more. Unite for an all-new legendary battle. Take an epic journey with non-stop action. Don't miss a single explosive moment. Marvel Universe Live, Age of Heroes. Kids tickets start at $15. Restrictions and charges apply. Witness it all with your family live at Talking Stick Resort Arena this Friday through Sunday.
D-backs take on the San Francisco Giants this weekend on Saturday. First 20,000 fans will get the D-backs cooler bag. Visit dbacks.com.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress HomeCare Solutions, Bob Roth.
Bruce Springsteen. Thank you, James. It is Friday, August 25th. And we are coming at you live from the Scottsdale Aero Park, and you're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you. And we are now on our fourth segment, and I've got Dr. David Bailie from ASICS here in the studio. And we are talking not only healthcare, we're talking orthopedics. We're talking about some of the new innovations and technologies that are out there. And you know what? I want to bounce it right back to you and really, have you wrap that whole piece up because it's very confusing. And
it's very confusing.
And I want our consumers, our listeners, to just buyer beware.
The key with all this is that back to the FDA. So it's okay to use things that are not FDA approved. That's called off-label use. But the rules are that if you're having anything, whether it's a drug or a procedure, or actually procedures are not technically FDA approved, but injections are, then you need to have consent. You need to know that it's not approved for this and that we don't know what the results are. So, for instance, PRP for tendon problems works for patellar tendon, the part that goes from your kneecap down to your lower leg, but doesn't work for other tendons. And why? Well, we just don't know the biology yet to figure it out. So there's a lot of uses. In orthopedics, we try a lot of new stuff, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. One rule in our business is there's nothing worse for your outcomes than data. So we don't judge the outcome until 2 years after something is done. So just because you feel better after a PRP injection at 3 months doesn't mean it did anything. You have to wait really 2 years. Right. And all the research that we publish, and I've published over 60 papers, you have to have a 2-year follow-up minimum because the results change. And once you hit 2 years, it's assumed that there's a positive effect, a statistically significant effect of some kind, but you have to run those statistics, et cetera. So bottom line, PRP is very useful for certain things. I think the most important thing for your listeners is to try to do some homework, which is difficult, and make sure that you understand kind of the current thinking on PRP. Is it useful? Does your physician make it on their own, or they use a commercial kit? Which kit do they use? Some work better than others because it's the process. It's how it's prepared. Second thing is that if you don't mind wasting a couple $1,000s sometimes, there's probably no harm with PRP. So that's the only downside of PRP. When you get to the stem cell stuff, first of all, the true stem cells are not available because you need to manipulate them to do anything. So if somebody takes bone marrow and spins it and injects some cells, number one, you don't know how many cells you're getting, what cells you're getting, and there's not enough to do anything anyway. So that is not stem cell therapy. There are some studies in orthopedics going on, controlled trials, looking at bone marrow injections to help healing, but we don't know the results of those yet. And that's not true stem cells. There was only one study in orthopedics in the United States so far on true stem cells, but the cells were prepared outside the United States, and they were pooled, so they were from multiple donors. They weren't your own cells. So the third thing is this thing called amniogenic cell therapy, which is probably the closest thing we have, and that's taking human placenta, and the moms donate it, it's tested, and they take the amnion side of the placenta that has immunoprivileged cells, that is cells that are not going to probably be rejected, and they take that tissue and they've converted it into a liquid form. And it's technically FDA approved as a graft to fill a human tissue void. And they've gotten around the FDA approval process for drugs, which requires clinical trials, by claiming it's a graft. But people are using it more like a drug, that is, injecting it and not filling a defect. They're trying to change arthritis pain, stuff like that. That's a drug. And so docs are using it not in an FDA-approved manner. And the company, I think there's 6 companies in Scottsdale, Phoenix area alone that do this. And nobody really knows what's in it.
Do you know anyone that's doing it?
Oh, yeah.
Relief?
Yeah, I've actually used it in several athletes.
Okay.
But I tell them straight out, we have no idea. We don't know, is this good, is this bad, what the long-term effects are. Just because you feel better doesn't mean it's doing anything. We don't know. We don't know the concentration. Do you need 1 injection? Do you need 5 injections? Do you need them a week apart? Do you need them daily? We have no idea. So this is all new stuff. We're going to learn some by trial and error, but which is the way we do things sometimes in medicine. But as long as you educate, but you have to educate your patients, and they need to know what they're getting into, because there are going to be bad things happening when you do things by trial and error. And it's the patient's decision to proceed with something like that. And I think the key thing from a physician standpoint, you have an obligation to educate your patient so they can make an informed decision. That's the whole key right there.
Right.
You can offer them all sorts of things, but they have to be informed properly.
And don't make false promises. I mean,
I tell everybody who we use it on, we have no idea.
Well, you want to have hope. And that's certainly something that, we all want, especially when we are dealing with acute pain.
Yes.
And we want to be able to get out of that pain, and how do we do that? And some of these treatments have had success, but like you said, there's so much information out there, and we just don't know what to believe. And
every week I probably review anywhere from 3 to 5 new papers, studies globally on ERP or biologic injections and things like that. So it's rapidly changing, and something I read a month ago may have been negated this week.
And this is stuff that you're not just reading off the internet. These are sources that are reputable, and you know that the stuff is really good information. Because I know that you as a doctor
No, this is research papers.
Right,
which
that's what I'm saying.
everybody
not the internet.
Well, you can get them on the internet if you go to Medline.
Right.
And you don't need a membership to get the papers and read the abstracts. And even a layperson can kind of sift through some abstracts and say, oh, it's effective or not effective for this. And some of the scientific jargon you may not understand, but any paper that is published becomes part of the public domain on the internet. And if you go to Medline, that is the company or source that has every published scientific paper on the planet is in Medline. If it's not in Medline, it's not a reputable journal and not a reputable study.
So your 60 papers are up there. Medline,
yeah.
There you go, medline.com.
Yeah, you can look up by author, you can look up by topic, you can look up by whatever.
Love it. Just in closing, anything being done on 3D printing?
Yeah,
I mean, we hear a lot about 3D printing.
They are 3D printing. Orthopedics, they're not yet, but there are tissues being 3D printed. I know there's a big push for organ transplant 3D printing.
So cool.
And all those things are going to be the future. But again, you have to, before you release it to the masses, you have to go through this process, which takes decades.
Right.
And it's very important to go through that process. So, there's always going to be some bad results, but you want to try to make things as safe as possible and as functional as possible. So we talk about efficacy. We want things to work in as many people as possible with the least amount of complications.
We're almost at an end here. Any last thoughts, final thoughts you want to leave our listening audience with here today?
Oh, I think that just be educated. Even if you don't understand everything, you can go into a physician's office with some good questions if you just do your homework prior to discussing it, especially when it comes to these things you're going to pay out of pocket. No insurance company covers any of this stuff.
So be informed, be educated, do your research, and
ask questions.
Ask questions. David, always great to have you here on the show. And if you want to reach David, 480-264-6995 or go to azisks.com. Make it a great day. Have a great weekend. We will be back here next Friday.
There's no place like home. You've been listening to Bob Roth's Health Futures. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call Cypress HomeCare Solutions at 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Or visit CypressHomeCare.com. Be sure to join Health Futures with Bob Roth every Friday at noon, right here on Money Radio 1510 and 105.3 FM.
Bill Gunderson's nationwide Best Stocks radio show is now on Money Radio 1510 AM and 105.3 FM. Every morning from 9 to 10 a.m., professional money manager Bill Gunderson will talk about the economy, markets, and the best stocks now. Bill Gunderson is also the inventor of the Best Stocks Now app and the writer of the weekly Best Stocks Now newsletter. If you like to invest in the markets, this is the show for you. You will not want to miss one episode. Visit GundersonCapital.com for more info. That's GundersonCapital.com.
Money Radio 1510
and 105.3 FM.
KFN in Mesa, Phoenix. With the market still settling, the Dow's up 32 points at 21,816. The S&P 500's up 4 at 2443. The Nasdaq's gained 5 at 6264. Gold is up $4 at $12.96 an ounce, and oil's up 41 cents, trading at $47 a barrel.
When people want to talk about money, this is the place they come to. And there's more on the way after this break for the latest news. And we begin now.